So I'm thinking, is this about vaccinations before a foreign holiday? Probably not. So then we go back to the three roots. Is it Jesus? No. Is it vampires? Not yet. Is it drugs? Could be.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another Friday installment of the Audiophiles. And as stated, it is Friday, so it is a viewer request day here on the channel. And John and I have poured over our ever-growing list, and it is his turn to go off and give something a listen. And we've stumbled across something, little suggestion here by Will Hildebrand, and this goes back to the helmet video we did on the channel where he's offered up a song by Ozzy and them boys and Black Sabbath, and the song is called Hand of Doom. Now, John, you have an that's right, the claw. You have this interesting relationship with sort of Black Sabbath and Ozzy, right? Like not a huge fan, are you?
No. I mentioned on that episode that the vocals, to me, had a whiff of Ed Osborne. And then I also, as a side, said I never really got into Black Sabbath. I tried it a couple of times. I mean, when I was younger, it was that shit that, the sort of 80s was just fucking
Yeah, like
terrible.
the
I mean,
Dio led Sabbath and all that. Yeah, yeah.
So, and well, Will Hildebrand, 1313, said, John, you got to check this out. So, I feel obliged that I
Awesome.
will give them a fair go. And again, the time and space since the last time I heard any Black Sabbath. I think the last time I tried, it was one of the early albums, but I could tell you which one. This was good 10 years ago, and it just didn't do anything for me. But, your music tastes and appreciation change and develop over time, I hope. And so we'll see what this has in store.
Yeah, yeah, I hope too. Just for me, as I am familiar with the song, those first three albums are like in my estimation, three great kind of pinnacle albums, especially for the genres that they would then go on to help develop and influence. So yeah, I'm kind of intrigued. I'm sure Will is too, and plenty of people out there who have maybe clicked on this because they're Sabbath fans as well, to hear what you have to say about it. So why don't you go off, give Hand of Doom a listen, and then come back and we can discuss it, man.
Will do.
What you gonna do? Time's caught up with you. Now you wait your turn. You know there's no return. Take your empty roads. You join the other fools. Turn to something new. Now it's killing you. First,
I really like the beginning, actually. Nice bass, little tingle tingle, and then into this nice beat and almost bluesy. God damn that drummer. He was giving a kitchen sink there. That was really good. Really impressive drums. Um, yeah, really nice riff as well from the guitar. Promising stuff.
It was the bomb. Vietnam, Nepal. Disillusioning. You push the needle in. From life you escape. Reality's like rape. Colors in your mind. Satisfying time. Oh, you know you must be blind to do something like this. To take the sweet that you don't know. You're giving death a kiss. Fool, little fool now. Your mind is full of pleasure.
We still got a way to go. Yeah, it's an interesting change up from that sort of creeping start that seems full of slow but sure, full of purpose. I heard one line said about push the needle in, so I'm guessing this is about drugs. And then we get this change up to what you kind of get for some heavy metal bands. It's almost like this, in my mind, a militaristic sort of the drumming and the riff. You know, it's very much like that. Still really great drums. This the guitar riff as well. It doesn't sound out of place. Sort of that on the cusp of the 70s. There's a lot of bands doing stuff similar to that. So yeah, it's all good stuff still.
Your body's looking ill. To you, it's shallow leisure. So drop the acid spell. Don't stop to think now. turning green. Your eyes no longer see life's reality. Push the needle, face that sickly grin. Holes are in your skin, caused by deadly pain. Head starts spinning round. You fall down to the ground. Feel your body heave. Death hand starts to weave. It's too late to turn. You want to learn. Price of life you hide. Now
God, that drummer is really putting some crazy stuff. Let's just go back a bit. Some of these sort of offbeats and stuff were just ridiculous.
caused by deadly pain. Head starts spinning round. You fall down to the ground. Feel your body heave. Death hand starts to weave. It's too late to turn. You want to learn. Price of life you hide. Now you're gonna die.
Yeah, that was good stuff. It's impressive. Few things that really struck home to me. One was, my God, that drummer's fucking good. Yeah, I pulled back that last bit. I could have pulled back any of those bits there. They were all really. It's lovely timing as well. Just feel, yeah. It just reminded me, when I got back into vinyl, I got a reissue of Led Zeppelin 2. Actually, that one there. Listened to it in this room here, set up with 5 speakers. It's heavyweight as well, so a really good sound to it. And I heard bits of the drums on songs which I'd never heard before. Listened to it on CD and cassette. And it was just a revelation, and that really made me want to get all the other stuff that I had previously on vinyl, and really kicked in my sort of love for vinyl again. And I imagine listening to this would be the same experience. Second thing was Ozzy's voice. So my first introduction to Black Sabbath would have been in the 80s, and I mean, I'm no expert, but I think his voice was probably semi-shot by then anyway, and the damage was already started to what we see now. But yeah, he had a really good voice. I mean, he's not trying to be all pantomime, bats and werewolves and shit. It's really good voice, and it's slightly different to standard voices of that sort of type of music as well. There is this detachment to his voice. It's not creepy, but it's just, yeah, and it makes it really interesting. I really liked his sing on this. The guitar's awesome. It has got that fat riff sound, which is a direct line from like Hendrix and Jimmy Page, etc., etc. And some of those riffs and stuff wouldn't have been out of place on Led Zeppelin 1. And the bass player was really good as well. There was bits in there where he's doing some really interesting noodling. So yeah, altogether, really impressive. Yeah, this is a good suggestion and has not necessarily made me a complete Black Sabbath fan, but I'm impressed by this song. Cool. Well, let's go back and find out some more by chatting with Andy.
Welcome back. So,
Yeah.
what did you think of this little ditty?
Well, poor vocals, crappy guitar, and lackluster drumming, but apart from that, it was all right. I mean, so begins with this lovely bass, starting off, and a couple of taps on the old scaffolding before this really groovy sort of backbeat kicks in. So simple, but I really like that. Just took me straight away. The guitar sort of mimics the bass for a bit, and then the Aussie starts to drawl as opposed to drool, which he does now. It has
God bless
this
him.
first little section has this sultry, there's a creeping, in the reaction, but bluesy feel to it.
Yeah.
You could easily imagine, and this is what pops into my head, but someone like almost Nina Simone just like ripping over the top of it quite easily. Perhaps a bit of piano as well, but do you know what I mean? It had that
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of, that's a root of smoky jazz with a bit of blues and just laid back, but there's flick knives under the table, definitely. There's a threat there. And then the guitar twists into this heavy agricultural riff, the sort of riff that turns over sodden earth and fells trees. It's got a fatness to it and a heft. And not for the last time, the drummer burst through, peppering the track with really great touch and control. It's just so impressive. And we surge upwards, and at one point there's a really nice high sort of accent from the guitar before taking a breath and then fucking surging again. And to be honest, mostly the drums and the guitar are so attention grabbing. I barely registered the words, but I caught him say Vietnam. I thought he said Vietnam. It could have been Cheltenham, but I'm pretty sure it was Vietnam. And pushed the needle in. So I'm thinking, is this about vaccinations before a foreign holiday? Probably not. So then we go back to the three roots. Is it Jesus? No. Is it vampires? Not yet. Is it drugs? Could be.
Could be. Think you're onto something here, John.
Back to that excellent bass for a few more beats. It's like the pulse is just slowing down and the breath. And then we get this abrupt gear shift, like someone's, sequenced an album terribly. And it's just straight into this it's kind of, I said on the reaction on the cusp, but it's late 60s sort of heavy blues rock, dude. And honestly, it would not have sounded out of place on Led Zeppelin 1. I mean, it just had that, because it had that energy as well, and that kind of almost youthfulness that you get on that first Led Zeppelin album, and it's got this same sort of drive to it as well. And it does sound quite that sort of touch of that 60s naivety about it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not completely fucked by the 70s yet. I can't remember. I think that Black Sabbath is like it's early 70s, isn't it? Like 72, 73, I'm guessing. But anyway, I'm just guessing. You'll fill me in. So completely different tempo, completely different feel. Ozzy's hitting loads of these elongated notes when he's singing. And then as it's doing that, the music shifts just up half a notch. And then you're suddenly getting this sense of motion, forward driving. The drums still outstanding, but they're straighter and harder than they were before. There's no swing to them, and it's almost like artillery. It's really sort of choppy, and again, kind of illustrates it with that motion, just perfect. We go into this really nice guitar solo, and there's a galloping beat now, and the bass is wandering around like some poor cretin who's just stumbled off a fairground ride. And I mean, he's up and down and probably left and right as well. He's just all over for proper crazy paving. I loved it. And then just as we're getting this head of steam, right turn, Clyde, we're back to the starting motif again. And he says something about, now you know the scene, your skin turns green. So I'm guessing that this structure of this song is like, you know, taking a hit or whatever. You got the anticipation, the build up, this fervent energy of this rush, blood rush, whatever, and then a slight come down, I'm guessing. So you get you're back to the heavy riffs again, gunshot drums. But as it goes back into sort of, you know, he sort of does, you know, and then it goes down again. The drumming in the quieter bits is just fucking brilliant. He's hitting all these off notes, these strikes. They're so subtle, but it really adds so much feel to the whole thing. It's just quality. And then Ozzy says something about, now you're gonna die, and we end with the bass just creeping slowly out of the kitchen door, out into the fire escape, and away into the night. So yeah, I thought this is a great song. I would say, if I'm being totally honest, I'm not 100%, you know, sold on the structure of the song, but every fucking element of the song is done so brilliantly. But there's two things, actually it's three. There's two things that strike to me. One is Ozzy's voice. Now, as I said before, when I first heard them in the 80s, it was all pantomime bats and werewolf bollocks. And yeah, you could probably tell that a lot of its quality was shot. The damage was already done by then. But here is great. His voice is superb. And it has, I think we said in that previous episode, has that strange detachment to his voice. It gives a certain edge to, and it's a bit of the je ne sais quoi. You can't quite describe it, but it's there, and it has this certain edge to his performance. I really liked his voice in this. Really did. I don't know what it is about people from Birmingham, the Black Country, but they got this. They really have. And, you know, Robert Plant couldn't be any more different. Well, he could, but no, he's really different in terms of vocalists, but they both have this quality that makes you want to listen to them. Number two, the guitar, great sounding guitar. And it just struck me, you could hear that straight line from Hendrix and probably people before him, I don't know, Buddy Guy or something like that, through Jimmy Page and through to these guys and then onwards. It's great to see that, you know, it's almost like a archaeological line or whatever.
Yeah.
Really nice. But above all of that nonsense, the bastard drums were so good. Some of the best drumming I've heard in a really long time.
Yeah.
It was really, really impressive. So this is a great shout by Will. I would not say that I'm a convert just yet, but my interest is definitely peaked, and it's not, well, let's tick that box. I won't listen to that again. I really need to listen to some more, and I will do.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, those first three albums are just phenomenal, and I think they're chock full of this sound that you can appreciate and extrapolate from a lot of really redeeming things musically. So yeah, if you were to go back, I would just suggest any of those first three. They're just amazing pieces of work in my estimation. Also, this is a really popular band with a lot of information, so I don't want to get bogged down too much in stuff. Also, what's to say we're not going to do enough? Yes, yeah. Precisely. We might do some more of this. Why cover everything in one go? But I am going to broadly touch on just kind of this era of the band and some of the accolades that they've kind of, you know, earned over the decades. But yeah, they are, as you clearly know, but they're an English rock band from Birmingham. They were formed in 1968 by guitarist Tony Iommi, drummer Bill Ward, who you rightfully gave his flowers for his performance on this one, bassist Geezer Butler, and vocalist Ozzy Osbourne. They're often they're often cited as pioneers of heavy metal music. The band helped define the genre with their first three albums, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality, all of which were released in the span of just over a year. So they really were cranking out the tunes at this point. They distinguished themselves through occult themes with horror-inspired lyrics and down-tuned guitars. Oh, where would we be without the Drop D song? Following Ozzy Osbourne's departure in 1979, the band underwent multiple lineup changes, with Iommi being the only constant member throughout their history. Sabbath have sold over 70 million records worldwide as of 2013. I'm sure that number has grown, making them one of the most commercially successful heavy metal bands in all of music history. Black Sabbath, together with Deep Purple and, as you're rocking and representing today, Led Zeppelin, have been referred to as the unholy trinity of British hard rock and heavy metal in their mid-70s. So here's to the unholy trinity. We've got 2/3 of them on our shirts right now. They are ranked by...
Sorry,
Go ahead.
can I just point out? I would like to also, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but the Young Brothers did come from Scotland before they went to Australia. So I'd like to claim AC/DC as British as well.
All right. Then there, we've got the
happen.
Four Horsemen. Oh, man. So they were ranked by MTV as the greatest metal band of all time and placed second on VH1's 100 greatest artists of hard rock. I think you're rocking the representative of the #1 slot. Rolling Stone magazine ranked them number 85 on its 100 greatest artists of all time list. And Black Sabbath were inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2005 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a year later in 2006. They have also won 2 Grammy Awards for Best Metal Performance. And in 2019, the band received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Their eponymous debut album, Black Sabbath, was released on Friday the 13th, February 1970, and reached number 8 in the UK album charts. Following its U.S. and Canadian release in May of 1970 by Warner Brothers Records, the album reached number 23 on the Billboard 200, where it remained for over a year. It sold in substantial numbers despite being panned, giving the band their first mainstream exposure. It has since been certified platinum in both the U.S. and in the UK, and is now generally accepted as the first heavy metal album. The band returned to the studio in June of 1970, just 4 months after Black Sabbath was released, and the new album was initially set to be named War Pigs, after the song War Pigs, which was critical of the Vietnam War. However, Warner changed the title of the album to Paranoid. The album was released in the UK in October 1970, where, pushed by the success of the Paranoid single, it reached #1 on the UK albums charts. The US release was held off until January of 71, as the Black Sabbath album that preceded it was still on the chart at the time of Paranoid's UK release. The album reached number 12 in the US in March 1971 and would go on to sell 4 million copies in the US with virtually no radio airplay, which is really interesting because, like, growing up 25 years later, you couldn't turn on a rock radio station in my neck of the woods without coming across a Zeppelin song or a Sabbath song. It was just kind of the way it was at the time. So it was really interesting for me doing the research and not even realizing it, having been a Sabbath fan for some time, that upon initial release, this wasn't getting a lot of rotation on the airwaves. Now I can understand why, but at the same time, Zeppelin, just a few years before this, was putting out some pretty occult-like stuff as well, and getting airplay. So I just thought it was interesting that somewhere between Zeppelin and Sabbath, a line was drawn in the sand over what could be played. So yeah, just really interesting to me.
Sorry, Andy.
Go ahead.
And it also kind of shows you as well the way people sort of digested and then shared music back then.
Yes.
I could just imagine this being played in people's houses. You go around to people's houses and they play it, and then you go and get your copy and all that sort of stuff. And it's just a really nice organic way of the music spreading across, through the communities and through different people to get this millions and millions of sales.
Yeah.
That's such a cool way of it happening. It really
And
is.
it's maybe the most organic way. I think we saw, like, say what you want about them, but like Arcade Fire had a similar kind of like against the grain rise to popularity using this digital format and self-promotion and really having control over their own sound, and became sort of this overnight success in a very organic way themselves. Now, this is obviously precedes this, but I can't help but draw correlations that, oh, these weren't shoved down our throats via the top 40 channels. You know what I mean? This is kind of more natural, and I don't know, it's just authentic maybe is the word that I want to use without offending anyone, but it does feel more authentic to me. And I just think that was really cool little factoid I stumbled across there. But yeah, like Black Sabbath, the album was panned by rock critics of the era, and by Black Sabbath I mean that initial album, panned by the critics of the era, but modern day reviewers such as AllMusic Steve Huey cite Paranoid as one of the greatest and most influential heavy metal albums of all time, which defined the sound and the style of heavy metal more than any other record in rock history. The album was ranked at number 131 on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Paranoid's chart success allowed the band to tour the US for the first time and spawned the release of the album's second single, Iron Man. Although the single failed to reach the top 40, it remains one of Black Sabbath's most popular songs, as well as the band's highest charting US single until 1998's Psycho Man. Hand of Doom is the sixth track on this legendary album. Like many of their songs, Hand of Doom attracted misplaced criticism and controversy. Several critics and listeners interpreted the song to be a pro-drug anthem because, as Butler would lament, they'll pick up on one sentence out of the song and blow it up in this big thing, like as if we're telling everyone to go shoot smack, whereas the song is actually very much against drugs. So let's jump into these lyrics that were so controversial for their time. What you gonna do? Time's caught up with you. Now you wait your turn. You know there's no return. Take your routine roles. You join the other fools. Turn to something new now. It's killing you. First it was the bomb, Vietnam, napalm. Disillusioning. You push the needle in. From life you escape reality's black drape. Colors in your mind satisfy your time. Oh, you know you must be blind to do such things like this, to take the sweet that you don't know. You're giving death a kiss. Poor little fool now. Your mind is full of pleasure. Your body's looking ill. To you it's shallow leisure, so drop the acid pill. Don't stop to think now. You're having a good time, baby, but that won't last. Your mind's all full of things. You're living too fast. Go out, enjoy yourself. Don't bottle it in. You need something to help you. Stick the needle in. Yeah, and then you get that instrumental break and the guitar solo. And now you know the scene. Your skin starts turning green. Your eyes no longer see life's reality. Push the needle in. Face death's sickly grin. Holes are in your skin caused by the deadly pin. Head starts spinning round. You fall down to the ground, feeling your body heave. Death hand starts to weave. It's too late to turn. You don't want to learn. Price of life you hide. Now you're gonna die. So yeah, upbeat little number there. Yeah, the Hand of Doom dealt with the problems of soldiers returning from the Vietnam War strung out on heroin, which the band witnessed firsthand when they played 2 American Army bases. But as Butler observed to Matthew Longfellow in 2010, there was nothing on the news about this. There were no programs telling you that U.S. troops in Vietnam to get through that horrible war were like fixing up and all this kind of thing. It's just stuck in my head. And when we got to Hand of Doom, that's what I wrote it about. So yeah, it's really interesting that they would get lambasted for writing a song that was like glorifying drug use, when actually they're doing two things. They're drawing attention to a very fucked up war that it had seemed to have no end in sight or real vision to it, as well as the drugs that were being used by the men who were asked to go fight this war because they were having to cope with some pretty awful shit. And that should have been the lasting, I think, theme that one could walk away with after listening to it. But of course, you know, I don't know how pervasive it is over there, but there is sort of this moral majority that kind of lords over art and oftentimes music, as that seems to be the more popular art these days. That kind of like pervert things, or it gives you really more of a glimpse into how they interpret things rather than to how the things really are, which I always think is quite interesting, right? It's really more of a mirror of their psyche than it is the psyche of those who created the art or of those who are actual fervent fans of it.
Yeah, in this country we had, I don't know when she started, it would have been, I guess, the 60s, the Permissive Society. There was a woman called Mary Whitehouse, and she was this
I
tight
just
ass.
read about her today. It's so wild that you mentioned that, but that portrait came out of King Charles, and they were talking about, I don't know if it was the artist who had talked about some of the right-leaning people and figures in your country, and her name was mentioned. I remember going, some of the others I had heard of before, but her name I'd never heard of before, so now I'm just intrigued.
Yes, so she formed this society, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was something like the Christian Fellowship Against the Permissive, whatever. And she took
Yes.
it upon herself to dictate to the nation what we should and shouldn't watch, and what was good and what was bad. And anything. It started off with things like nudity, swearing, blasphemy, and then other things became disgusting. Someone didn't open the door for someone, and that's disgusting, and everything was disgusting. But she got a disproportionate amount of sort of airplay in the news and current affairs for this mad little, old age pensioner to be mouthing off the 90% of people probably didn't give a shit about in this country, and even less do now. And well, the lovely thing was, let me think, would have been in the 80s, four young comedians sort of came out. I think probably, I don't even know if they're all out of Oxbridge. I know at least three of them were. But they formed a sort of group, and they called themselves the Mary Whitehouse Experience. And of course, they were very wholesome, never swore or referenced sex or drugs or anything. So she was delighted.
I'm sure. Oh, that's great. So, yeah,
it's
this was
just the other,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, just one more thing that struck me was when you were talking about sort of their early albums and the critics, etc. And I'm thinking, just because of the music itself, I was trying to think of a heavy metal band. I mean, a proper heavy metal band that actually was a darling of the critics. Probably the only one I could think of is Metallica.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others because it's never treated as a. I mean, sometimes they do themselves any favors, but it's never treated as a serious genre of music because, you had. I mean, the hair metal probably did it. Spandex and fucking
Yes.
hairspray and upside down crucifix and all that. People wouldn't take any of that shit seriously. But this obviously is a world away from that. Thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting that you'd never hear it apart from Metallica, really.
Yeah. And even they are like, you can understand why they would be the ones to, because even they crossed over to mainstream rock halfway through. Well, at this point, it's no longer halfway through, but they put out a grip of really good metal albums, and then they cut their hair and they put out all this, sort of like radio friendly shit. And they came out against, the online sharing of music, and they conformed themselves, which is really interesting for a metal, because next to punk,
became a business.
But next to punk, the last genre you would think of as conformists would be this bunch of, metalers that want to go against the grain of everything else, it would appear. But yeah, not their bottom line, obviously. But yeah, back to Sabbath. This is a great shout by Will. So thank you, Will
Yes.
Hildebrand 1313 for offering this up. It was only a matter of time. You were braver than me for offering up Sabbath. I'm a big fan, but I knew that John was a little hit or miss with them, and seemed a little disingenuous for me to offer up an Englishman Black Sabbath when he already had what I thought was a pretty strong opinion of them. But John, it is cool to hear that you're like that you did really enjoy bits of this, and because there's some great musicianship in this song.
Yeah, I enjoyed all of this.
Yeah.
The only thing I question is the up and down structure of the song. You know, it's a bit jarring for me, but each bit of it was fantastic, and each individual player was fantastic as well.
Yeah,
really
and to be fair, John, I can understand. It didn't bother me, but I can understand why you wouldn't like this the way it was all kind of pieced together, because another genre that was heavily influenced by these first three albums would become prog rock, and I know where you stand with prog rock. So this is an interesting area where it's just about to lose you. Exactly. Another genre that I love that John is not a huge fan of, so we won't be seeing much prog on the channel probably. But Will, thank you so much for offering this up. John, thank you for going back to the Black Sabbath well and giving this a go. And this is a great tune, great episode. Really appreciate that. All that out of the way. Guys, if you have anything to offer up, please drop drop those songs down in the comments field below. That's what it's there for. If there's any future Sabbath stuff that should appear on the channel, preferably from one of these first three albums that obviously aren't the ones that John and I have heard. I've heard pretty much all that, but it would obviously go over to John. But yeah, just some of the not big hits like Iron Man, like we talked about. Feel free to drop those suggestions down in the comments field, or any other band or song that you would like us to check out. We really do appreciate it and love checking out new stuff here. And that's why we do these Friday episodes. Also, while we have your attention, please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. Really helps us grow the channel, and we can't do that without you guys. And hopefully John and I will see all of you in growing numbers in the next installment of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.